over and we were able to come outside, the rain had stopped and everything, it looked like a tornado had hit us. As we got out and got to see more, we realized this wasn't a tornado, this was just a huge hurricane, a very powerful hurricane.
Hurricane Michael devastated the Florida Panhandle, making landfall as a Category 5 on October 10th, 2018. Hello, I'm JT Santos.
And I'm Hazley Pittman. 1 year later, many residents continue to rebuild the communities they call home. Our team of WUFT journalists will share a collection of stories that spotlight struggle, hope, and perseverance.
As Panama City continues with the cleanup, WUFT's Dolores Hinckley met one man still living without power, pressing on with hope instilled by his community.
As Hurricane Michael took aim at Panama City, Al Grebick thought he'd be safe in his brick home of 16 years.
When it blew out the windows, then it lifted up the roof. Once the roof came up and the sunroom came out and my carport came out.
His neighbor, Sonia Stubbs, peered outside her window as winds were howling, recalling just how bad it was.
My heart was broke because I was like, they don't even have a roof over there.
And it stayed that way. For 10 months, Al lived in his beloved brick home with no roof, no windows, or electricity, relying on his son to help him piece together their broken home.
My son would help me out, and he kept juggling the things afloat, and he worked so hard that he had to have a surgery of his gallbladder removed.
With his son in recovery, Al ran out of options.
He asked me on his way out, he goes, "Dad, just do me a favor and don't give up." Okay, and you do your best to put on the dad smiling face, and he said, "I won't, you know, I got this." And he goes, and I sat here, and I started looking around, and I knew I was in over my head.
That's when Al did something he never thought he'd do.
I made a sign, just a simple sign that just said, "Need help," because I didn't know where else to go.
With a view from her porch, Sonia had seen the struggle, but that simple sign called her to action.
When I seen that sign, I was like, here goes the picture, here goes Facebook, and it just went crazy from there.
In a matter of days, people from across the Panhandle came together to tarp Al's roof, now rebuilt, and more have shown up to clear out the home's moldy interiors.
It seemed like I had to get over pride at first, but it was misjudged pride. You know, I just had to allow it to happen. I had to step back and allow the people to spread the love.
Two simple words, need help, spurred action, bringing out the best in people following nature's worst.
I didn't benefit a thing, and I don't want to benefit a thing. I benefited the love that I felt and how swollen my heart was every time someone reached out to help. It was just amazing.
So amazing that Al knew he needed to thank them in the best way he knew how.
After the help started showing up, I was like, well, I can make a sign that can show some appreciation to all the people that helped me out.
Still with no power, his recovery not yet complete, Al credits a community for restoring his hope that he will one day put this all behind him.
I've sunk every dime I have into this home, and so it means the world to me to get it back again. Saving my life.
Dolores Hinckley, WUFT News.
As individuals rebuild, city governments and municipalities are facing a drastic decrease in tax dollars, forcing them to reassess priorities. The hard-hit town of Mexico Beach has chosen to disband its police department. City council members voted to instead pay Bay County Sheriff's Office for the safety services. The move is expected to save the city $250,000 in the long run to help cover the cost of damage.
And while cutting costs was one of the reasons Mexico Beach officials did away with their police department, neighboring city Port St. Joe still hopes to find a permanent home for its own department. Port St. Joe's police department was heavily damaged after Hurricane Michael when the building flooded with 3 feet of water. The department currently operates out of the state attorney's office. The city manager says they have not decided if they will repair the old building or construct a new one.
Others in Port St. Joe have not been so lucky. WUFT's Valerie Lyons joins us from the newsroom to tell us how this tight-knit community is trying to move forward together.
Rebuilding efforts are still needed across the Panhandle, but as a small town, Port St. Joe has found strength in community spirit. I spoke with some local elected officials on how they're working to get the city back on track.
My daughter was a cheerleader that came out of deep out of one of her closets.
Walking through the rubble of what used to be his home.
I had a piggy bank on my my dresser right here. Of course, it came off and broke, and I'm still finding money, still finding change.
Rex Bazette reminisces.
Greg Norman's shirt still on the hanger.
Holding on to the memories he shared with his family before Hurricane Michael destroyed everything.
It was 145 to 150 miles an hour, so that's enough to do damage, as you can see.
Port St. Joe, Florida. Population 3,500. Small town America. Rex Bazette is mayor of this quaint coastal town. A former commissioner, he was elected after Michael ravaged the Panhandle.
Being born and raised here, I love everything about it, and I want to see it come back, not bigger, but better and stronger.
Now a year later, his 50-year-old home remains as it was just after the storm. One of dozens you can find along the main highway, existing now only as reminders of Michael's devastation.
We had approximately 70 structures that have been taken down at Little Port St. Joe. A lot of beautiful old homes, including the mayor's home, that been there for generations.
Jim Anderson has served as city manager since 2012 and says Port St. Joe has always been known for its natural beauty.
We pride ourselves in having a very, very clean town that people can come down to and enjoy the weekends. Family friendly, parks, recs, outdoor living. That's what we're known for.
The city has taken strides in cleaning up debris and restoring its centuries-old charm.
Our town is very clean considering what we've been through. It's not as clean as we like it to be.
And while major rebuilding efforts are still slow going,
And that's because of contractors. They're here, but they can't find workers.
Mayor Bazette's focus on putting roofs back on houses has played a key role in the city's recovery.
One of my big things when I first got elected was to get rid of the blue tarps on folks' houses. Let's get roofs back so they can get back in their home and get back to normal. We're getting there. It's a 5-year marathon, I think. The St. Joe Company is going to rebuild a marina with a nice hotel down there, so we're excited about that.
Along the same roads where ruined houses still stand, you can see the construction of new ones and the promise of new beginnings. And while he dreams of the day he can finally move back into his home,
We're going to patiently wait and tear it down and rebuild right here. Can't beat the view.
Mayor Bazette remains hopeful. Progress takes time to restore that slice of small-town America they call Port St. Joe.
City leaders say the biggest priorities now are fixing roads and building workforce housing. Once employees have places to live, contractors can begin construction and speed up the rebuilding process. Valerie Lyons, WUFT News.
Coming up on After the Eye, the economic impact of Hurricane Michael, how entrepreneurs rebuild local businesses from the ground up. 155-mile-per-hour winds snapped trees like matchsticks, devastating the Florida timber industry.
Hurricane Michael caused $1.3 billion in damage to the once thriving industry. WUFT Samantha Green learned how one Calhoun County timber farmer is now struggling to maintain a family tradition.
There's still a lot of uncertainty in the Panhandle's timber industry.
Timber farming is in Will Leonard's blood.
My family has been involved in the timber industry in Calhoun County, Florida, and the Panhandle for 5 generations.
Generations of work wiped out by Hurricane Michael's winds in just 3.5 hours.
All of the mature timber, timber that was of an age and a size that could be sold for an end product that a mill would buy the timber and turn it into that end product, it was all destroyed.
Leonard's farm was just a sliver of the nearly 3 million acres of damaged forest land in the Panhandle. Florida Forest Service estimates Michael left 72 million tons of rotting timber on the ground. That's enough to fill 2.5 million log trucks, which would wrap around the earth 3.5 times.
Roughly 10 to 15% of the fallen timber in the Panhandle has been salvaged in what is expected to be a 10-year cleanup process.
Long-term recovery, we're looking at probably decades of recovery because there's decades of timber that could have been harvested that are on the ground now.
The decades of recovery are not the only struggle timber farmers are facing.
You're looking at $1,000 plus per acre to reforest areas that haven't been salvaged. And frankly, that's just cost prohibitive for timber growers.
Leonard says his family was fortunate enough to salvage 50 to 60% of the fallen timber, but they still need to come up with the money for reharvesting.
Unfortunately, there's not going to be any, as far as we know, any full recovery from what was lost. So the next step is looking forward, planning for the next rotation.
That alone is enough to chase many timber farmers away, but not Leonard. Moving on from the past, he's staying optimistic.
My wife and I, we welcomed our first child in May, and seeing things start to be rebuilt, seeing stands of timber being restarted, and seeing him grow, all of those things give us hope and encouragement.
Determined to pass the family legacy from his generation to the next. Samantha Green, WUFT News.
The timber industry isn't the only one struggling after Michael. Known for their salty taste, 90% of Florida's oysters come from Apalachicola, along Florida's Forgotten Coast. But those numbers continue to drop after the hurricane. I visited the famous bay to discover why.
There was a lot of businesses that thrived because of Apalachicola oysters. A lot of people, have made a livelihood off of it, and it's just right now it's not there.
TJ Ward is a fifth-generation oysterman in Apalachicola. Born and raised on the water, his family has been harvesting wild oysters since 1957, until
Production is at its lowest I've ever seen it. I mean, there's nobody going to get wild-caught oysters at all.
once thriving wild oysters are all but gone.
The oil spill, that's when it really started going downhill.
That, combined with increasing salinity in the bay, more saltwater predators coming in from the Gulf, and finally Hurricane Michael last October.
It was really bad at our oyster house. It totally wiped it out.
Forcing Ward to change the way his family has harvested oysters for decades.
Until the wild oysters come back, we're not going to rebuild that place.
But he's determined to keep his family business open, along with others like 23-year-old oysterman Reed Tilley.
It devastated our industry.
They're looking to science for a solution that could help the industry survive.
I think aquaculture is the future. It's basically the last hope for Apalachicola. I mean, everybody in Franklin County that was in the oyster industry is near about gotten out of it. There's only a handful left.
A handful continuing the region's rich tradition.
We wake up every morning just going 100%.
Harvesting the oysters in heavy-duty plastic bags, cleaning, shucking, cooling, and selling.
Being that it's, Apalachicola is the oyster capital of the world, and our oyster is, the one that's the main oyster on the menu, that's saying something.
A source of pride, also sustaining the local economy.
Oyster farming boats that are about to head out on the water, they need gas, they need ice, they need, drinks, they need lunch for the day.
And encouraging growth within the community.
It's nothing but good. There's no cons whatsoever with oyster aquaculture.
Embracing a change that could keep this small community alive.
Because I grew up doing wild harvest.
Until the day
I want it to come back.
wild oysters
Can then build the oyster house back.
return. Hazley Pittman, WUFT News.
Ward and Tilley say although the oysters are now primarily farmed, they still offer the famous salty flavor.
The Forgotten Coast is also known for beautiful sandy beaches like Cape San Blas. But the problem these days, a shortage of tourists gutting the local economy. WUFT's Alexis Howard reports some panhandle communities are still struggling to attract visitors.
We've been coming to the Cape as a family for many years. Many years.
Every fall, Lizzie Wharton and her family make the 6-hour trek from Alabama to Cape San Blas.
We come down and bring our kids and they love it.
They enjoy the sandy beaches and the laid-back environment the area offers.
It's not a lot of hustle and bustle, and there's one good donut shop, one good place to eat, lots of beach, a lot of sun, nobody on top of you.
But since Hurricane Michael, the beaches are quiet. Hardly a soul in sight. That's a problem for property managers and renters like Elizabeth Brick.
We were in shock. We were just in disbelief. It was kind of like a ghost town.
The Wootons always stay in one of Brick's rentals when they visit the area. She manages 35 vacation homes along Florida's Forgotten Coast. Brick says Hurricane Michael not only changed her personally, but jeopardized her small business.
We didn't know if we would have a business because people come here to vacation and all of our homes were damaged or gone, and we didn't really know how we would survive.
For weeks, Brick lived on the floor of her office. Despite this, she got to work right away, turning some of her still standing vacation homes into inhabitable housing for construction crews, insurance adjusters, and people helping with the relief efforts.
We were able to provide housing for those people, and we still are till this day. Have several crews staying with us that are working in the area.
Enough business to keep Brick's company, Coastline Vacation Rentals, afloat. But the lack of tourism is evident 20 minutes west in Mexico Beach.
It kind of looks like an atomic bomb went off. I mean, it's completely destroyed.
That community saw a $400,000 drop in hotel bed tax revenue in the 9 months following Hurricane Michael, after all 4 of its hotels were seriously damaged or destroyed.
I think a lot of people are they're scared to come back. They don't know what to expect when they get here. They don't want to see the devastation.
Day by day, debris removed, damage repaired, Brick is confident tourists will be back.
I don't think that our guests have forgotten about us. I think a lot of them are giving us time to heal and recover before they could come back.
A hope Brick holds on to. She wants to see more families join the Wootens along this stretch of the Forgotten Coast.
We love Cape Sandblast. We come every year. We'll be back.
Alexis Howard, WUFT News.
Panama City Beach is considered to be a premier spring break destination. But after Hurricane Michael, locals were worried those spring breakers wouldn't be coming back. But as it turns out, they had nothing to worry about. In fact, data reveals more gains in the month of March when compared to the same period last year. Lodgings in Panama City Beach charged tourists a 5-cent bed tax, which brought in more than $2 million during March, an increase of more than 13%. It is important to note that Hurricane Michael did little damage to Panama City Beach in comparison to other areas of the region. While many businesses are facing tough times after the storm, others are busier than ever. Peggy Sue Singleton owns a barbershop in Panama City along Tyndall Parkway. Her business was completely destroyed by Hurricane Michael, but she was able to reopen 3 months after the storm. Now, business is booming.
There's a lot of the hair cutting places and barbershops and salons were not able to come back after the hurricane, so we are busier now, and we're thankful for that.
Singleton has photos of her previous shop hanging to remind her of what she lost.
There are still many structures left to rebuild, including schools. 6 schools in Bay County alone remain unusable.
WUFT's Zach Oliveri learned how the district is helping students move forward.
District officials tell me the key is getting students back in their routine, but extracurricular activities like sports have helped restore a degree of normalcy.
2 words describe Trey Brown's time at Mosley High School.
Life-altering.
As the team's long snapper, Brown protects the team's field goal and extra point attempts. During Hurricane Michael, he had to protect his family and his home.
I had to hold the front door closed because of the hurricane kept barging the door, so water was getting through the door and stuff.
Like many homes in the area, the Browns' home is uninhabitable, forcing the family to move 35 minutes away from the school.
Line it up, line it up, line it up.
Trey's father, Jeremy, who's also the team's head coach, says the long commutes for his teen adds angst, but it's part of their new normal.
Every morning, man, it's just a little bit nerve-wracking until you get to school and you see your son and daughter like, hey, everything's good, you know, we made it and everything.
It's a common challenge for students throughout Bay County. According to Superintendent Bill Husfelt, 5,500 of the district students were homeless following the storm. Now, the number is at 3,000. Superintendent Husfelt says the impact of Hurricane Michael has also greatly affected students' mental health. 40 students have been Baker Acted less than a quarter of the way through the school year. That's already double their yearly average.
This storm, Michael, did not care if you were white, black, rich, or poor. It just took away everything from everybody in its path. The challenges that people are facing mentally has no barriers.
Athletic Director Josh Vandergrift says sports provides students with an outlet and restores a sense of normalcy.
You see broken trees, blue tarps on roofs, spaces where there used to be homes. Kids live through that day in, day out. Them getting a break from that and coming out here and being able to release all of that energy and not being frustrated, and a lot of times that is a good thing. Sports helps kids release those inner demons, is what we like to call them as coaches.
Yeah! Like most of his teammates, Mosley Jr. offensive lineman Adrian Strickland was excited to get back on the field following the storm.
It's hard to see your friends at the hurricane. There's trees blocking roads. It's hard to get around. Once football came, everybody was there, and everybody was like so excited to see each other, especially that first day coming back. Everyone's spirits up, and it just made everyone better.
Trey Brown says 1 year later, the storm may have damaged a lot, but it didn't tear this team apart. It brought them closer together.
We set aside Hurricane Michael and just focus on the plays, focus on each other, focus on the team, being a team for each other. Not regretting what happened back then, but moving on and doing what happened now.
The Mosley Dolphins slogan this football season is #BGT, be a great teammate. And with everything these student athletes have experienced, that hashtag has an even greater significance. Zach Oliveri, WUFT News.
Next on After the Eye, a story of hope and inspiration. One Panama City man helping his community build a better future.
Rebuilding a region is a tremendous task. Analysts say the Panhandle and the Forgotten Coast have suffered an estimated $2.9 billion loss from the storm.
But this region is determined. WUFT's Maria Roberts learned how we can all assist with the recovery process.
Panhandle community members expressed a need for investment in housing and new businesses. Residents are hopeful that by bringing in new business and more housing, the Panhandle will recover faster.
Sandwich prep, stove, griddle, fryers.
Mike Scoggins has owned a beachfront restaurant in Mexico Beach for more than 15 years. But his business, Killer Seafood, was one of 367 commercial buildings destroyed by Hurricane Michael. Down but not out, Scoggins came up with an idea to put himself back to work and bring business to Mexico Beach.
So I've come up with the best and quickest way to get back into the game here in the restaurant is to get a food trailer.
Scoggins ordered a food trailer to operate on his beachfront property that's on US Highway 98. The main road that runs through town. But that highway still shut down. Construction delays mean the road might finally open this month.
The highway opening back up and Killer Seafood opening back up, it's going to create a reason for more people to come to town.
Former Florida House Speaker Alan Bentz says businesses like Killer Seafood are key to restoring the Panhandle by bringing in new jobs.
If you want to open up a business, we invite you. We need your help. We'll be very accommodating to you.
Bentz is the co-chairman for Rebuild 850, an organization dedicated to providing the Panhandle with ongoing support in the recovery efforts. Research from the University of West Florida estimates 18,000 jobs were lost as a result of Hurricane Michael. But without housing for workers, jobs seem unlikely.
We have employers like myself that are looking to employ people. But there's not a workforce out there because there's no place for them to live when they come here.
Bentz expects the recovery to take at least another year.
People have got their head down, they're doing the best they can, they're working hard, we're resilient.
Panhandle communities with a need for investment.
Without that, Mexico Beach will die.
Knowing dollars can't replace the charm that Hurricane Michael took from communities dotting the Forgotten Coast.
My family's lived here 100 years. This is the place I love best in the whole wide world. And it upsets me that it's going to change, but there's nothing we can do about it. And if we want to stay relevant and here, we've got to accept it.
And Mike Scoggins is ready.
When it gets done and when things get rebuilt, it's going to be a beautiful little town again because the beach is always going to be here.
With at least one familiar restaurant ready to serve seafood once again. 68,000 businesses in 12 Florida Panhandle counties were damaged in the storm. Rebuild 850 is encouraging Floridians to invest in real estate or businesses to help stimulate the Panhandle's economy. Maria Roberts, WUFT News.
1 year after Hurricane Michael, families are still struggling to get back on their feet. But many local nonprofits are reporting a decrease in donations as media attention has faded. WUFT's Quan McQuill introduced us to a man who fills a gap when help is scarce.
I like it when y'all call me to help. That's my thing.
Many people know Rich Johnson by his Christian shirts.
No, if there's one way you want to make me mad, then don't call me.
At that megawatt smile he wears. A smile you can often find at Gulf Marine in Panama City. Rich runs this boat dealership with his slogan,
"Ride the new wave."
He's recently a part of a new wave of changes. a nonprofit dedicated to communities affected by Hurricane Michael.
Yeah, he's amazing.
These volunteers box donations like paper towels, canned foods, and snacks.
Not only did he provide us with a space to make this happen today, he also contributed financially to help purchase all the food for the boxes as well.
Then stack them into Rich's trailer.
Headed to Foxwood Apartments, Panama City. It's a low-income housing area that's got really hurt from the storm.
Delivering these essential items to families still struggling after Hurricane Michael. People like Brittany Pitts and her 4 kids who stayed in a tent city waiting for their apartment to be fixed.
I think that he just finds it in his heart that this is what he's led to do.
The hurricane also destroyed Rich's home.
I went through the little spell of, definitely upset and having to replace, or having to find a new place.
After Hurricane Michael, there was a change of heart in Rich Johnson. He started to load his trailer with more than just boat supplies. Now it's filled with love. Bringing help to households still in need. This couple lives in a shed in their daughter's backyard.
He could play like 9-10 different instruments. He got to play with Elvis Presley when he was a teenager.
Cynthia suffers from broken bones where her husband Bill could barely see anymore because of cataracts.
Went over to Walmart and we get Mr. Bill some clothes, and we get them some food and supplies and stuff like that, and just something to help them and just to know that there's people out there that care about them.
I think God puts people in your way to help you. He's definitely one of God's angels.
Real heroes seldom say they are.
No, absolutely not. But keep doing what I'm doing and continuing to help these amazing people.
Quan Maxwell, WUFT News.
Thank you for letting us share these important stories as we focus on life in the Florida Panhandle after the eye.
While the recovery continues, many from the region say it will ultimately be back better than ever.